Welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey. And for those of you not watching on YouTube, this is not, as always, a regular episode in the sense that it is Zoom through the virtual web that we exist on nowadays. I am actually recording in person with a guest, not AI. This is not an AI generated bot. This is not just a fake image. This is as far as I know, a real human being.
Touch me.
One of the realest. Okay. All right. We're good. We're good. For those of you not watching, I just flinched. For those of you not watching, I have a new cowboy hat. And for those of you who have never watched, I wear a cowboy hat.
And boots.
And boots. And this is my first episode without my sunglasses. They're in the car, and I didn't feel like getting them. But nice. The sunglasses over the glasses. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I am in Atlanta, Georgia for the Pod Tour meetup. Shout out Chris K, the guy who made PodFest. Pretty cool dude if you get to meet him. I found a guy wearing a PodFest hoodie at VO Atlanta. I was like, I'm gonna go ask that guy if he went to PodFest. Like, that's so cool. And then it was the guy who made it. So I looked stupid. And he knew me because he's like, is that Cowboy Against the Wall, Mr. Whiskey? What's he doing here? Voice acting. And if you can hear it, hopefully it's not too bad, but I did a voice audition the night before last or maybe it was last night for Batman, Joker, Bane, and Solomon Grundy for a Lego DC Batman stop motion film. I did the audition, and if the Batman voice wasn't bad enough to destroy my vocal cords, the Solomon Grundy, Born on a Monday, Hulk zombie, definitely did it. And then singing karaoke on my way here, 4-hour drive, but I made it. I have yet to be robbed or shot or mugged, and Atlanta has treated me with hospitality so far. So
Is that the rep Atlanta is getting on the streets?
I have seen no rep for Atlanta other than this: crime, crime, awesome aquarium, crime, crime. This is the only highlight is like the aquarium, which I am not getting to visit this time. I'm missing it, but it's all right. It's all right. I am here recording with a very special guest. I met her at PodFest. She is one of the key pillars of PodFest, I would say. Everyone knows her by her laugh, loud voice. There's always a crowd. Sometimes sometimes there's a ball gag in her mouth. If there's that happened. That did happen. Yes, there was just a podcast. Yeah, there was a like kinky podcast, and the woman hosting that brought like a Batman utility belt of sex toys, and it was two Podfest, which was kind of insane. There was also a nudist at Podfest. She wore clothes during the event.
No shoes, though.
No shoes, and her comedy was pretty good. It was actually very funny.
So you see, those two were my roommates. So imagine what
Yeah.
happened in the rooms.
A nudist, a kinky, and a drunkard. It's like the beginning of a bad joke. Like y'all walk into a bar with a microphone. What happens? But yeah, so Ms. Paula is here with me. She is a podcaster specializing through personal experience and conversations with guests, mental health. And that's why I want to introduce her to y'all. Obviously, I cover that stuff on my show, but for y'all to have another outlet for that, maybe someone you connect with more, maybe someone who's better than me. Not saying that she is. Y'all don't have to. Yeah. Y'all don't have to comment down below. Don't use Buzzsprout's fan mail service to text me like she was so much better. We're ditching your show for hers. Listen to both of ours. You know.
Just tell him to bring me back more.
Yeah.
Take
Co-host.
over.
Well,
Let me take over for a while.
Paula is now a certified nuclear operator podcaster, and that's why her hair is that color. For those of you watching, it's from the radiation exposure. It's the nuclear powered. It's kind of cool and colored, matching the microphone. Yeah, but Miss Paula, don't let me be too long winded here. I had a long drive by myself, so I am anxious to talk to anyone, even if they're inside the microphone. That y'all aren't real. We're the only two here that are real.
First of all, I want to say thank you for reaching out and asking me to come early so we can record. I don't get to record in real life with people as much because it's always virtually. So anytime I get a chance to do it in real life, especially with people who I only get to see at conferences,
Right.
is an incredible opportunity. I would never say no to that. So thank you for stopping
Yeah.
by. Thank you. And for some reason, I gave him my address to my apartment, but he ended up finding the clubhouse and setting up in the clubhouse. So I was like, how
You know,
did you even find the
this is what I was expecting. I had to walk down. There's like this mountain of stairs between like the little apartment slash condominiums here, and I'm walking. I'm the only cowboy for miles, and I'm like, Paula's not answering her phone. She's sitting out on the porch, like laughing, watching me walk in circles. She's like, she knows it's me. Clearly, it's me. I'm the only cowboy I've seen here so far,
He
and
didn't exercise. He said he was in the car for 4 hours,
I was so
right?
cramped, and I'm wearing shirt stays.
Stretch his
Yeah.
body.
I'm wearing shirt stays too. You can't see it because I'm sitting down, but they're pulling my shirt into my socks. And so that car ride, it was rough. It was rough, but it was worth it. I'm here. And Miss Paula, can we start with what are you wearing right now? It looks very interesting. Is
So
that available for sale somewhere?
this is special order. So
Special order.
yeah, I'm into March, as you can see, my
Oh,
earrings,
me too.
my like. If you've seen me at PodFest, I'm always wearing my merch or other people's merch because they like to send them to me because
Do you
I
have
do
like
amazing
stickers?
albums.
You guys like
I
stickers or
have
something?
stickers. I have uh belt. What are they called? Buttons. I have everything. So this was new. I was trying it for my birthday weekend where I went to the Empowered Podcasting Conference and
Mm.
I wore this on my 35th birthday. So it says, now that's some shit with the hashtag that says say your shit. And the back, it has my new logo.
Is that you as a Powerpuff Girl?
Yes,
Okay.
so I have a friend of mine called Soda. She has a creative podcast. Oh my God, I forgot her podcast name. But anytime I guess goes to a podcast because she likes to draw, especially Powerpuff. So
Mm.
she draws your Powerpuff as an
Oh, that's
incentive for
awesome.
yeah.
That's
So she has
awesome.
made when she drew this, we turned it into a logo for Shit Happens. And then she
Right.
wrote another one, which I turned it into a logo for Rap Shit Whippy. So she has done two of my logos, and we all belong to the Empowered Podcasting Clubhouse room. So most of those people have because they've been to a podcast. There was one time where we went to Clubhouse and everybody put their
Oh, wow.
profile pictures as the logos to just
Oh,
appreciate.
nice.
So it's amazing how many talented people you find in these communities or conferences
Yep.
you attend, and you're like, oh my God, that's dope. And like,
And how many frauds?
oh my
I'm
God.
gonna be the negative guy. There
But you
I
see,
yeah.
you go to so many, he is everywhere.
I am a
Everywhere.
traveler.
Yeah. But I am very picky with where I show up. That's why I don't end up finding too many frauds or stay away because I'm a person who really follows my energy
Mm,
and intuition. So whenever I'm around somewhere and it just feels, I don't care how much shit you know, how famous you are, I'm walking away and never coming back. So I have to be somewhere where it
right,
feels
right,
peaceful, where I can, I mean, you've seen me at PodFest. I'm
right.
loud as fuck, cussing, constantly with a drink, and people still love me. They even give
Oh
me
yeah.
what? Places that allow you to be yourself and just allow you to shine and validate you, those are the places I go. And that's why I
Right.
don't, if you met like, I'm pretty sure there are frauds in Podfest. I don't know because I haven't
Yeah.
spoken to everybody.
There's a lot of exaggeration, but what you're speaking on is so true. The podcast community really is a family. And like every family, you got that sibling you don't like, that one uncle who's a little creepy, talking to you about your
Someone
podcast too
just
much.
shows up
Yeah.
just for money,
Right.
just
And
spreads gossip.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's awesome because, and I've spoken in a couple episodes, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who follow, make sure you subscribe so you follow every episode. But I've talked about how I went in with the mindset I don't want to meet other veterans hosting mental health podcasts because I don't want to compete with them. And then it turns out now there are some people with that mindset still, but it's a lot of guest swapping, networking. We'll help you out. You help us out. Like we're all just trying to help people. It's really the money hungry people who are trying to keep guests to themselves, keep resources to themselves, or charging to be on people's shows. For me, it's like we're trying to help each other out. So any veterans I can connect you with or vice versa. I've overlapped guests with so many people and it's great. There's nothing better than calling someone and they're like, "Oh, you were on his show? I was also on his show." Or, "You know this guy? Like I went to school with him." It's amazing. Now, Paula, you've been podcasting for a couple years now, so you've been around the block a few times. And let's drop the name of your podcast since we haven't done that yet. We've alluded to it quite a bit, but
Yes, 4 years. Shout out. I'm proud of myself. And we recently just
right.
reached 10K downloads. It's funny how 10K took me 4 years. And since I got 10Ks, I'm already at 16K. And I'm like, they do say
Exponential.
once you get to 10K, the rest is going to come quickly. But my show is called Talk Shit with P. And I started as a mental health podcast because I was battling with depression. It was like I've been battling with depression before COVID, but it was COVID and my depression was going worse. I was going through a breakup. I needed something to take my mind off, and podcasting became the thing. I didn't know if I was gonna fall in love with it, but I fell in love with it, and I attended PodFest as my first thing virtually. I started my podcast in 2020. I attended PodFest virtually in 2020 end when they did the VidFest, and then 2021, this was virtually. And the community just fell, right? And then when I attended it for the first time in 2022, it really felt like I was home. And that's when I knew I wanted to do this thing forever, ever, and be around people like them. And shout out to Travis Brown, who sat down with me and was evaluated my podcast. They're doing free evaluation, which I was scared, we want,
Right.
we want, what's the word? We want,
Constructive criticism? Okay. Yeah.
we want it, but we still
Like we don't want it. Yeah, yeah.
because you don't want to be told what you're doing wrong, but you need to be told if you want to improve. That's kind of vibe. So I was saying, Travis Brown, I'm not coming. I just made an appointment just because I didn't want to lose it. Travis was like, no, you better come. And when I went, actually had more good things to say about bad, which was very impressive because I had just started podcasting in 2020, right? So and I didn't know shit. I was teaching myself everything as I was
no
going.
pun intended.
And then he told me to change my logo because it was like, these are your personal stories. You have a very big energy. People need to feel it when they come to your podcast. So we worked, we changed the logo, and then we kind of niched down because now mental health is broad, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted to be in that wave because now I realized I want to do this forever kind of shit. And I was more interested in building my brand and seeing what I can create. And I've always been a merch girl. I've always been into merch since I was a kid. So whenever I create a logo or something, I have the image of how will it look in my merch? How will this look in a line? Because I always thought I would have a clothing line.
It comes long before you even have people who will buy the merch because I'm gonna buy the merch. I've made merch for me, and it's so there's nothing more exciting than having like merch with your show or your logo on it, especially when you make it from scratch. And what was your logo beforehand that it wasn't giving off the kind of energy that people needed?
It was lips, and they used my lips from a picture that was taken literally the last weekend before we went on lockdown. So it was funny, but it really worked. So they used my lips, and it was just lips with a mic.
Like gossiping.
Yeah. No, and then it was taking out the words TSWP.
Okay.
Which is Talk Shit with P. So like the words were coming out of the mouth. Like,
okay.
So it was kind of cute. And we do have some match that still has that logo. We still use that logo in some matches because I have these bathing suits that I created. Because I used to
even the bathing suits.
I don't know if you've met Adam Shibley.
Sounds familiar.
Business school. And I kept on dragging him. I'm like, can you make bathing suits of your match? Because he has a amazing match. He was like, Paula, I don't know who will wait. I'm like, I'm telling you, I will fucking wait. So when I started creating match, and because it was like the lips and the mic, so I made bathing suits like the bikini. And then the lips with the mic in the middle was literally
no, that's so funny because I used to talk quite a bit with Rachel Birch. She runs the Love Before 100 podcast, and she was like, who's going to buy merch with my face on it? I was like, if you make a Speedo with your face right on the crotch, I will wear it everywhere.
How do you know Rachel?
Well, her and I were supposed to get dinner together for business purposes. Yes, and then I missed her because I was hanging out with someone else who I should have prioritized different, but stuff happens.
Okay, there's a story I need to
there's not a story.
I'm gonna put him on blast and over here,
we
but
can talk off the mic. Yeah, there's what happened. I could have been a dad and was almost a dad, but everything's lined up for a certain reason. I don't have a Speedo with her face on it currently, so
no, and that's the thing about March. You have to go outside the box to create something amazing. I don't want the same shit I see everywhere. I want when you mind, even when you see it from afar, you're like, I want that. And literally, so I created this with a different logo, but I have one with my talk shit with P, but without the words, right? So I just have that, and it's on the back. And
that's the issue.
Wait, in front it says shit happens, drink a beer. And then in the back it has that. So when I went to Publix last week, and this old lady was behind me, and she came and she poked me, and she was like, why are you putting your tongue out for me? What did I do? And I was like, huh? For a second, I was confused because
you got that it was right.
It's like, yeah, you're putting your tongue out. I'm like, huh? And then she's like, you're shy. I was like, oh my God. Into all this conversation, and she grew up late in the 60s, 70s in LA. She's like, I slept with 100 men. I've had this. My husband is.
What a story, right?
Look at one March, because I decided to have it at the back of me instead of the front with just my logo and share. And it brought up a conversation that went way out.
Right.
She even gave me a number, and she was like, if you need help editing, I live across the street, call me.
Wow.
I feel like you're a nice person. I can invite you to my home. And I was like, I love this.
Right. And I have the same thing. I make kind of military style, and someone came up to me. They're like, what's 25 TAC 4S? I was like, 25 TAC 4s. It was a mandatory study hour program for the nuclear pipeline in the military. And I started telling about the show and everything, or people are like, couple of nukes, or who's that guy on the back of your shirt? And one of the things you mentioned is there's so many variations we can make, because I've made my shirt and I have all these files on my computer, every color, every just moving one thing, changing one thing. So many. I love custom merch, and I wish it wasn't so expensive. Well, you got custom slides, or?
Do you see who that is?
No.
Because they're a little bit dirty and the light.
I know.
But look.
You're gonna have to tell me who
That's
it is.
me drinking a champagne.
That's what I thought. I was like, there's no way. That's
this on the other side, this is me blowing smoke. Because that's still my favorite shit. And I've had people, but literally somebody, the first time I saw this before I ordered them, and that's why I ordered them in white, because I had already seen the black ones in hers. She literally ordered them in black. I have house slippers, comfy as fuck with my face. This girl, until today, she's like, when are you gonna have them again? Because mine are getting really old because I've been overwashing them in my machine, but she's had them for 2 years. But they were so comfy and cozy, and it has my whole face in front of them. And she loves them. She ordered them and she enjoys them. I have had socks. Literally, there's a lady who DM'd me on IG, and she's like, I remember you because I've never seen anybody wear socks with her face on stage when she was presenting.
There's one person who might beat you. I discovered this yesterday. JoJo Siwa's car is just pictures of her face. Her car is just 100 pictures of her own face. Okay, that's the energy you're giving off right now.
I want my car with my face on.
Well, maybe just if you got right. That's that's.
Like that's the car.
Right.
I don't want to be seen like that on the streets.
Too high profile.
Creeping around and trying to do shit. Like, I don't want everybody knowing she just crossed the street.
Hey. If you get enough money, what you get is you get a fancy car that's pink. You only take it every now and then. It's got the Powerpuff Girl on the side of you. Like it's nice. Like,
yeah, we'll have a merchandise car that goes just
right. Yeah, right. Not for driving downtown Atlanta red lights.
To creep, it needs to be dark, tinted, full everything.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Maybe I'll buy the cyber trucks. They're ugly, but they might work for
more creeping. Room for your face. Oh, for the creeping, not. No, that stands out so much. There's only like
because there's so many now. Like literally, I don't know in Savannah, but
there's one in all of Savannah. There's one.
I'm constantly meeting, and the only time last week I took a picture of one because it was different. I've never seen a white one, and it had a paint at the back, like some artistic. So I took a picture of the back one. I was like, this is different. I'm gonna take a picture of that. But we have them so, like, I mean, this is Atlanta. Everybody wants to
It
pretend
has like 2/3 of the state's population, so
and everyone's a superstar. Hollywood. It's like the South, the Hollywood of the South. So
whoa. That's what Savannah's nickname, but Atlanta, yeah.
oh, no, you can put Savannah in Atlanta.
You know how many movies they filmed in Savannah?
The movies,
Forrest Gump.
for the movies they shoot, they just come there for the venue.
I
But
know.
everything happens in Atlanta.
You're right. Well, because the air's not gray in Savannah, so
They have of crime because
yes,
there's things to steal.
yes, there are Hellcats parked on the street and everything else. But what's funny? No, you're fine. I was gonna say that the merch car for you, Paula, has to be a convertible. You already know. You got to have the windows down, the roof down when you're pulling up to PodFest. You know, it's got to have like a cooler. You gotta get one of those cars where you can modify with 3D printing and stuff, and you have like a built-in like little drink tub of ice in the center console. You got like champagne just chilling.
When I'm ready for that, you come because you
I got a contact. Yeah, well, I got a guy. He's gonna be coming on. He just got out of the military. Toretto. Check out the episode with him, future NASCAR driver. He just got out of the military. I'm gonna go to Long Island and record with him. He's opening up his own shop. Gonna start building cars.
my car.
Right, exactly.
It's been a Jeep girl. Like I want like
oh yeah.
So and
big tires. Right.
To see people under me. I'm short as fuck. But it's funny, you know, now that we are talking about March and all this, because the conversation kind of went into March and stuck. I think the first time I met you, the first night was when I was actually creating content for my March because I was giving them shout out to the Moped boys. Those boys, I love them. They were opening their March and those one of a kind. Nobody has them. Only they have.
Oh, you're sitting in a little beach box inside of the conference hall. Y'all had this little beach set up, and you're sitting down there. Oh, okay.
After
I know the first time I saw you. I remember it very clearly.
Wait, let me finish myself. Yeah. Was the first night on Wednesday night. We were outside of the
Gatorville bar.
The bar near the pool. And Mike and Joe were there, and I gave them their March to open, and they opened. They saw it was these whiskey glasses because they love whiskey. And whenever I'm with them, I drink too much. I drink too fucking much. Those boys make me drink. It's not me, it's them.
No comment. No comment on that.
As soon as they saw those, they poured their whiskeys in that glass. They started drinking, and they're like, shots! We're all getting shots. And then I actually saw him, but I didn't remember because I got so drunk that night. I don't even know how I made it the next morning to do my presentation. Thank you, Lord, because my presentation was the next morning for Pecha Kucha. But when I was looking at the video, I was like, oh shit, Whiskey and Mark was there. But when you...
So this is pretty accurate. First of all, I was sitting down with an older gentleman who was like eating a salad, chomping down, and I'm asking him about podcasts and stuff. And suddenly there's so much noise. There's this very loud person, and there's a crowd forming, and we're looking over. I'm like, oh, that's Paula from the Zoom call. I remembered her from the Zoom. I went to the pre-PodFest newbies Zoom call. Right. And, you know, I went over because I didn't know anyone. And I had met a few people. I'm like, well, Paula will talk to me. She's very social. Maybe connect me with some people. I go over and talk to Paula. Next thing, I've got 5 free drinks in my hand. I'm like, this is not what I want. She's just handing out beer. She's like, look, I snuck beer in because it's cheaper. Because we're at a hotel. It's so expensive in Florida. She's got a bag of beers.
From because I was from the ambassador.
Yeah.
The ambassador party were giving out free beers. So it was winding down. I was like, I ain't going to buy no shit over there. So I had my own beer and I kept drinking people.
Yeah.
And it's funny you said you had all these drinks. I feel like everybody at PodFest is always saying, Paula, I got drunk because of you. Like, you just kept handing me drinks. I don't even remember where I'd be getting these drinks because I don't even be spending money at PodFest, but I always end up having drinks to give out.
And the Moped boys, they give out a lot of free drinks. What happened is I had a pina colada. I was talking to Ms. Cherry. She runs a Love podcast. Very beautiful voice. One of the most beautiful voices ever. I was waiting in line with her to get a pina colada. She left. Paula gave me like a beer or something. Then people were like, "Your name's Whiskey? Here on the house." And they'll give me free whiskey. And I've got so many cups. And that led to some trouble that night. But
I
and
had to call my roommate to come and get me because I couldn't, because this hotel was like a maze. I couldn't remember how to make it to my room. And it was
right.
because we
Wednesday night, pre-registration.
at around 3 and 3, 4. By the time we got ready, it was the pre-pool party meetup. Then from there, I went to the ambassador meetup. Then I came back, so I didn't get enough time to literally walk around and find the way. So I called them. I was like, "Can you come pick me up?" Because
well, and what happened is Paula's like, "I got to give this big speech tomorrow. I'm getting drunk now. I'm gonna drink tomorrow morning." And I'm going to drink enough so that if it goes bad, I can just throw up and have an excuse to leave stage or be bad. She's like, I can have an excuse. Shout out to Ingrid. What's her name? There's the country female singer. I love her music. Who sang the national anthem awfully at that baseball game recently. And it was like, I'm drunk. Ingrid. Ingrid, I'm so sorry. I listened to her song Ladylike. It's a very good song. Sorry to hear that, she destroyed America when we were already down low. We were already kicking us while we're down. I can't remember her last name.
The national anthem is a setup because every time people who even know how to sing and they go sing national anthem always stands like the very few who have been praised for having an awesome national anthem.
It's always the kids who do good. How come the kids sing better than the adults? Because I guess they don't understand, Yeah, apparently.
It's funny because literally the next day I woke up and I woke up early because I had to volunteer, and I volunteered, and then I went and I found Mike in the room waiting for the staff, and he gave me a Red Bull. I drank a Red Bull, but then he made me help set up the booth,
right?
And then in the setting up the booth, they gave me to help put the beers in the den,
right?
So of course I started drinking.
Right.
But I did do my speech successfully that even people started coming up to me and thinking,
check out the replay. Check out the replay.
So I never watched it yet. I can never watch myself, but it's on my Instagram. The full presentation of mine is on my Instagram. I'm like, I never watch videos if the night before I either drank or I was on the stage. I do not watch those videos. I'm like, you know what? Drunk Paula is not sober Paula. We're going to leave that with drunk Paula.
Right. Now, Paula, we've talked plenty of comedy, these funny stories of you and your life, but can we get a little, I don't want to say dark, but a little serious with it with, you were battling depression already. COVID, I think, made it a lot worse for everyone by adding a layer of isolation, of boredom, of allowing your mind to wander, of taking away those de-stressors that you had, the social interactions. And so you use this podcast to cope. And that's amazing that that worked out for you. But can you tell us a bit about your battle? And then from hosting this podcast for so many years, all these great guests you've had, all the wisdom you've acquired, kind of some advice for everyone out there who's in your spot, where you were then and your spot now, because we know depression is a journey, not a destination, really. And I'm not saying that to sound hopeless. It's getting better every day, always healing, and you got to always be alert of it. It's just like any addiction or disease. It's always in the corner doing push-ups, like getting ready, training to take you down. And you have to always be aware of that. You've got to always be vigilant. You can't let yourself get complacent and fall back where you were. And once you fall, negativity, its momentum is so much faster than positivity. You down spiral fast and you got to build your way back up. So you can get into that, Paula.
Yeah, definitely. So the isolation part, no offense, I was okay with that. Fuck people, no offense, but humans are just annoying sometimes. And this is coming from an extrovert. So growing up, I was always an extrovert, like a people pleaser. Like I knew my boundaries, but I was also people pleaser. I was a very confident person. But I also knew when to let go of people. Like it's something I've had since I was a kid. And then I remember the first time I came in America in 2014. And my second boyfriend. When we were, I was. This is a funny story because when you're in that place where you need to break up with somebody, but then you don't want to break up with them because at this point, my first boyfriend was from DC and my family was in DC, so I used to go to DC all the time. And then when we broke up and my family moved away from DC, I started having to be in Atlanta. Now I had to make my own friends and people here because everybody I knew was in DC or out of Atlanta. And I was never in Atlanta that much. The extent that my family was like, why are you even studying in Atlanta? Because I had school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Friday or Thursday night, I was in DC until Tuesday morning for my classes. Like literally every week or every other week.
It's like a 7.5, 8 hour commute. That's big.
Oh no, I used to fly.
Oh, okay.
That Frontier was then, it was like $100 return ticket, baby.
Okay.
So I was in DC all the time.
Were you like the VIP member? They get, they're collecting points.
All Frontier,
all the points.
Oh yeah. And to the extent that because my parents were like, my aunt who was an ambassador in DC was like telling the embassy, we should just leave the car at the airport. Like
right.
So when I started dating that guy, his entire family was in Atlanta. So I met friends and family because of him. So when I was ready to break up with him, I was sad that I was gonna lose that because most of the friends and were from there. So of course, most of the time in breakup, people choose sides. Even when they say they don't choose sides, people choose sides. So I was fearing losing that, which ended up starting to depress me because now I was like, I was getting into that lonely world, like, oh my God, I'm gonna be alone. And that's when I started battling my depression and having to learn how to deal with it. And it was kind of a wake-up call, which kind of was like, listen, Paula, you kind of need to learn to be your own best friend and being by yourself. Because I ended up realizing that even before coming to America, like my entire love life, my friends keep on telling me I used to jump from relationship to relationship. And I realized it was because I was scared of being alone.
That's very common. And I was speaking about this the other day. It's in my new book coming out, and it's huge. It is. In fact, the second divorce rates are higher than first divorces because most people who get divorced, when you get married or you're in a relationship, you get so comfortable to having someone, and a lot of it has to do with a lack of self-love too. You get the love from other people rather than from yourself. And social media has a lot of people not understanding or having self-love. And when you don't have that, you're seeking it in other people. I myself did the same thing where I was never single. Relationship after relationship. And part of that too was you don't heal properly. You don't get over stuff, and then you never want to be that guy or gal who says someone else's name, like the wrong name. But Paula, can we go back to where were you before America?
Oh my God. So before America, it was Dubai. Before Dubai, it was south of France. Before south of France, it was Malaysia. Before Malaysia, it was UK. Before UK was Uganda and Tanzania.
Oh wow. So the worst part too is you felt like with your boyfriend that you had finally got like a friend group that was staying because you kept moving. You always had to say goodbye to people.
And they were Tanzanian, right? So I finally felt like I found my home away from home, right?
Right.
And now I run away from Tanzanians, but that's a whole other story.
Right.
So from that, I started learning how to be my own best friend. Like I was still moving relationship to relationship because a bitch hadn't learned yet. She was still learning. But then, so by the time when it came to COVID, I didn't care much about the isolation, being alone, because I'd already learned how to be alone. I would take myself out. I'd go to movies alone. I would go to a bar and alone. I always find local bars wherever I move, and I'll start going alone. But it only takes a day for people to gravitate to me, and next thing you know, I'm the star of the bar. So I make friends pretty easy. I talk to anybody and everybody. I'm just that. And I think that comes from moving around because I always had to make friends.
Right.
So if I wasn't coming to you, I'm not gonna just sit there and be like, they're gonna come to me. No, bitch, you have to go to them. So I learned that. But during COVID, in 2019, I was dating a guy who,
oh boy, I can see it coming. how to say this nicely.
Love of my life.
Right.
And people have this idea that just because somebody is the love of your soulmate, that means that you have to end up together. No, your soulmate can be even your best friend. You can find your soulmate in there, and you don't have one soulmate. Yeah. And sometimes your soulmate is your worst enemy. Like they're not good for you.
Well, and one of the ancient philosophers wrote there's 3 types of love. I think one is your first love, right love, wrong time, and then your final love, or it's something like that. I don't remember it, but that middle one hit me hard. The right person, but the wrong time. Or a big issue is you can love someone, but your lives are just so different or just not aligned. And I've learned over the years, you can love someone, but not be in love with them anymore. You still love them, you still care about them, but you can't be in love with them because you know that your calling is different, you know, or they're not good for you. I mean, we also love some toxic relationships sometimes, you know, we can't help ourselves.
This was what is one hell of a toxic relationship. Anyway, so we broke up right before COVID. And it was February. It was his birthday month. We were even supposed to go on vacation. We had to cancel the vacation, and he was in Canada. So when COVID hit, it was
traveling really shut down.
Yeah, it was also a hard time. Like with COVID, my hard time wasn't on the isolation. It was because when we broke up, I had 2 jobs, and me and my friend were starting an event company, which we were doing an event to launch the company on 420. If you know, you know. So I was busy, and me, I like it when I'm busy. I don't have to think. I don't deal. I'm an overthinker. I'm a Cancer to the core. Empathy, overthinker, emotional, like all the shit.
Reaching it.
So I push it down because I know once I sit on it, it gets so. I make myself busy, but then I also ended up finding out that being busy doesn't mean you're productive, because I sit down and I'm like, what the fuck did I do? I'm tired, but I didn't do the shit I did. But I'm just being honest. So when the world shut down, I didn't have shit going on, you know? Like literally all I was doing was waking up, drinking, sleeping, waking up, drinking, sleeping. So I saw myself go into that hole. I love alcohol. I just don't like when I know it's taking me somewhere. Like if I know, so I had to get a wake up call, like, Paula, where you're heading is not a good place. You need to face your fucking shit. So I had to deal with my breakup, which I wasn't dealing with. And at the same time, I was worried about him, because just because we broke up, the love, it doesn't just disappear. It's COVID. He has 2 kids. He's in Canada. I love those girls. So I was really worried, but I also didn't want to check up on him because I'm being stubborn. I didn't want him to think I want him back. I didn't want him to think I'm using his kids as a collab. It's like, what the fuck do I do? And then Tanzania, where my parents are, the president wasn't taking COVID serious. My dad also had tissues. So I was like, God, please save my dad. I don't want shit to happen, whatever. Then Asia was going on with whatever. And I've lived in Malaysia. I have friends who I consider family who are Asian. So to see that, it was also like, man. And then there's Black Lives Matter, which was also happening. So it was all this shit happening at the fucking same time. And not forgetting COVID, because at least when I go through my mental health issues, I know I can call a friend to talk to. But when it's COVID, the whole world is dealing with shit. So I'm here thinking like, okay, I got shit worse, but I'm one person. I don't have kids. I don't have a pet. I don't. Some of my friends have 3 kids who are also at home. Some of them are now realizing, okay, now I'm home with my spouse and I don't like my spouse. So they were shit. So it was,
that did happen quite a bit.
there were a lot of divorces that happened. But it was like, you couldn't just disrupt somebody of your shit when they are also dealing with shit, because the entire world is dealing with shit. So I wrote my ex an email just to check on him. And then I went on Twitter and started talking shit about it. And then one person told me, I was like, Paula, you got so much shit to share. I call her my manager until today because she's the one who made me get into this. She's like, you got so much shit to share, you should start a podcast. I was like, nah. I was like, yeah, I be reading your tweets. I'm like, because I tweet when I'm drunk. This I don't. It's a big deal, and I don't want people find. once I'm up
You're
there,
gonna get canceled. Yeah.
people tweets of 10 years ago, like
I know.
now, like
I
I'm
know.
the same person 2 months ago. So y'all chill with this cancer shit. But anyways, I've been careful with what I tweet these days, and I don't go on Twitter when I'm drunk. Cause you ain't gonna catch me sleeping. But at that time,
Right.
it was before, like when Twitter was still cool, you could go out with
Yeah.
nobody gave a fuck.
Before it was X.
Yeah. So and then she came to my house and then we were talking and she was like, why not talk shit with P? You like talking shit.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
when talk shit with P came.
Right.
And even the first episode, I went in so much on my struggles during COVID and everything. And that ex of mine has been a big supporter of my podcast. He hasn't listened. He said one day he might be a guest, but he has been a bigger supporter. Most of my presentations, he has sat down and helped me go with it. He has created, he has made me come up with an elevator pitch. When we are good, it's very helpful. When we're not good, he's an asshole. So, but that's how it came. And when people ask me, I get asked this a lot. Who's your podcast for? And I say selfishly, it's for me because my presentation, my first presentation ever at PodFest, it was how podcasting saved my mental health. Because literally once we came with that idea to start a podcast, the next day I didn't wake up and go to the fridge to take a beer. I actually showered and I started Googling and Amazoning, what do I need to buy?
Right.
And if you all remember in 2020, there was so many people who were doing free courses. And as soon as you start Googling something, you go on your social media.
Target feed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were all these free courses I started taking and learning and calling my dad and my brother. I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. It's going to come out on April. And my younger brother was like, give me a date because I'm going to hold you accountable. And he did. He was impressed when I released it a week before the date I gave him.
Nice.
But when I say I'm selfish, because it is for me, because every conversation I've had in my podcast has been conversations that have helped me heal in different ways. I've learned something. I've realized how much better I am from where I was. I've grown, I've been inspired, I've been motivated, and they've been the same. So it is, every time I get on the mic, it's a healing process for me. I get better to hear other people's struggles and what they're doing to get themselves better. Because sometimes we feel so alone in our struggles. We think nobody else is dealing with it. But once people come, either you're thankful that, oh my God, I'm so glad I just get depressed, because there are people who are battling all these intense shit. And sometimes you also find other ways. Okay, maybe therapy hasn't worked for you or medicine hasn't worked for you. And there are people who are using different tools or different ways. Like me, I say podcasting helped me. Every time I see myself, and by the way, I'm not healed. Like, just like you said, mental health, even depression, anxiety, like they are a journey. You get better, you learn, you get tools that you learn to use, but it doesn't go away. So even when I see, but I know when I start sensing that it's going to go to the dark place. And depending on what it is, sometimes I'm like, you know what, Paula, just wallow and feel it. Stay in bed the whole weekend. Just be lazy and shit. Come Monday, get the fuck up and we are doing this. So I allow myself to be dark if I need to, but also give myself time, like, you better get the fuck out. And when I do get the fuck out, but when I'm wallowing, I watch old show or trash TV. I'm a big fan of trash TV because they make me realize I'm not far off, because these grown-ass people be doing some fucked up shit on trash TV that you're like, damn.
What is, are you saying trash TV?
Yeah, trash TV is
like reality
TV.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Love Island.
Don't get me started. There's so many there's like all these shows, there's like 10, 20 different versions of them per country. They're all just the same. I'm like, I could host a dating show. This is so easy.
And these people are all the shit that they're arguing or doing. And I look at myself and I'm like, man, and I was just sad here that I got drunk yesterday and did this and that. Like, Paula, you're okay. You're all right. So they kind of me up. And I end up getting ideas either, oh my God, I should have that conversation on my show. Or I'd be like, damn, let me reach out to this friend. We need to talk. This is the right person for me to have this conversation. Or I will see something and be like, man, let me create something like it motivates me for my match, or it motivates me for a photo shoot. Next thing you know, I'm getting up and starting working. And that's why I say podcasting really safe. And some people, it might be gardening. Some it might be painting. Some it might be yoga. Some it might be... So we underestimate the power of the passions we have into healing ourselves. So podcasting became that to me, and I just love it. And the words. So for everybody who has been on my show, has helped me be a better version of myself. The more I keep doing, I realize how much better person I am becoming, and I see my growth. If you look from 4 years ago to where I am now, it's like, damn. And it's because of podcasting. So if you're feeling, and this is why my podcast, I say it's for creative journeys and mental health stories, because I'm in that phase where we are creatives. I'm building a brand, but I'm also paycheck to paycheck. I don't have a trust fund. I don't have a budget. I don't have a marketing budget or anything. I'm doing everything with what I have and what I can. So I want to inspire and motivate those people there who think you need to have a certain amount of money to start something. You can start with whatever you have and wherever you are. And that's why I bring these creative stories, so people can hear these journeys of people. Just because they are where they are doesn't mean they had a smooth road. And also to hear their mental health struggles, so that we can inspire and motivate each other or help each other. Like, oh, you're going through that. I know this person who does this that helps them, or this. So talk your shit. My advice is talk your shit, because once you talk your shit, you belong in the right places and get the right help. If I hadn't come out and said I'm depressed, or I'm this, I wouldn't be in the right group, getting the right help, meeting the right connections, and being surrounded with people just bring me positive energy and peace. And also going outside. People underestimate the power of sunlight, just being outside, walking.
So it's so refreshing. That's why I'm so thankful for my dog needing to walk outside, getting me away from the computer, because she gets me outside, and the feeling of the sun, I love it. I love the heat, thankfully. That's why Georgia is good for me. But Paula, a couple of things I want to touch upon. The most important thing being, and this is true for me too, just as it was for you, Paula, ladies and gentlemen, just start. A lot of people feel like they have no creative talents. I never knew I was a writer or wanted to be an author until I got a random writing prompt, and I realized, oh, I love this. I just started my podcast, just like you just started. You never know until you try. There's so many people who, we're all creative beings, and I'm religious, so I believe, we're made in the image of God, and He was a creator, and we all are creators. It might not be singing, it might not be dancing, it might not be gardening, it might be something else. But we all have something, and you can't discover de-stressors and passions without just trying them.
And because I knew I could talk, right?
Right.
And that's why my first 3 episodes didn't have video, because I do this and I do this. So I'm like, I just need people.
Are you part Italian? That's why I do it.
So but from podcast, I always knew I wanted to do a TEDx and to write a book, but I just said it. I never done shit about it, and I am fearful of being on stage. Like, and people
you can't be drunk at TEDx. You can't be drunk at TEDx.
But people
maybe high.
At least that. But people, whenever I tell people I'm shy, people don't believe it. But the thing is, I can walk into a group and just start talking to people, asking, like,
very different from being on stage.
But when I'm on the stage and people are looking at me, it's a whole other vibe. So, but then I'm always nervous, and then once I get there and I'm on the roll, it's like this energy when I come off. I'm like, that was so.
Well, and exactly, it's the same with your passions. You can't build momentum on something that hasn't started yet, and that start is going to be the hardest part when you have no motion behind you.
Exactly.
But that's what you got to do.
And that's why I love podcasting, because it got me to constantly be on stage. For some reason, they keep wanting me to be speakers. Like, I'm going to be a speaker at Afros and Algiers in a panel in October in Baltimore. Podcast Movement is paying me to be a room manager at Podcast Movement. I'm getting paid to be there. There are people.
I'm not.
See, you gotta use
negative pay.
reach out to me after meeting at conferences, and they're like,
Yeah.
your energy, you have this way with people. If I
I'll be there next year getting paid.
if I have a booth, a sponsor booth, can I hire you to come in? I'm like, hell yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, and also my book is finally gonna be, I'm hoping to finalize it by end of this year. So the book is there. People keep telling me I'm funny. I was gonna be on the comedy, but I got delayed at the award show. By the time I came to the comedy, the numbers were already picked, even though my name was on the list. So I didn't get to be on the stage. But I am getting into comedy. I never thought I'd see myself getting into stand-up.
Me neither. If you can talk, you can make people laugh because once you know how to formulate words.
I'm naturally funny, and people keep telling me you're funny, but there's a different thing about being naturally funny and getting on stage to make people laugh. People are in the statement, and they.
Well, especially if your funniness is storytelling versus sets of jokes. But Paula, I want to touch on a few things because we're getting close on time here. We got to go to Pod Tour, but
like
I saw an analogy the other day that really resonated with me and what you said earlier about you could be busy and getting nothing done, and someone goes, it's better to run a short distance than to jog in place. You're busy in both scenarios, but one of them is productive. It's getting you somewhere. You can be busy jogging in place. You're doing something, but you're not seeing results. And then I want to say, and I'm sure you've developed this mindset as well over the years, I don't think you're selfish at all. There's no guideline or rule book. There's no societal, precedent for a podcast has to be for other people. Sure, it doesn't make sense. It's like, it's just for me. But when people make songs, when people make movies in books, sometimes it is to entertain and inform. That's a majority of it. But people also just create to create. You go to a person's house sometimes, it's like, oh, are you selling that art piece? And the artist will be like, no, I just made it for me. I just wanted to make it. There's nothing selfish about it. And I think you don't have to have a podcast. And this is for everyone out there, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to start a podcast, but you feel that same way, you're like, who's going to listen to this? I feel like it's more for me. You don't need a target audience for your story or whatever you have to say to resonate with someone. There are billions of people in this world, and you will resonate with some of them, guaranteed. You don't know where they are. You don't know who they are.
Exactly.
And that's why, right. Right. And it's like, going back to what I said in the beginning of the episode about the community and the not competing with each other, realistically, it's good that there's so many people with the same style show because not every host is for every person. You know how many women over 50 have a show about how great it is to be over 50? Not going to drop names. I know at least 5 of them off the top of my head. Some of them are fabulous. Some of them are glorious. Some of them are young at heart. Some of those their titles are all just adjectives over 50. Yeah. And it's great. At PodFest, there was a huge community of senior podcasters, and that's amazing. This year, we're really trying to work on, at least on my end, I'm pulling some strings to have a greater faith-based community bringing together. There's all these different niches.
You should talk to Salisha.
I did. I don't want to say anything that's not official yet, but I may be the PodFest pastor. But, I don't want to say anything official, but nothing's been confirmed.
The PodFest pastor and the mayor of PodFest.
Right. I am a sinner too. I'm not holier than thou, but
I literally, when people ask me, what was the number one thing that got me through depression? I was raised in a Christian home. My grandmother, God bless her, she's gonna be 94 in October. The only grandparent I have still alive. That woman, and in our entire family say, I think the only reason we are still surviving and getting through shit is because of that woman's prayers. That woman keeps us in check and prayers. She's even met the Pope and all that. She's traveled.
Right.
She's amazing. Die-hard Catholic.
We all know someone like that.
I was an Anglican because I prayed on my mom's side because my dad didn't go to church. So even when I used to go to a Catholic church, my grandmother wouldn't let me take the wine and bread. It was like, she's strict like that.
Right. Very traditional.
Very Catholic. But so when I grew up, church every Sunday, Sunday school, communion and all that, like I went through all that phase. So when I first left home to go to school, I had the freedom. I was like, fuck church. You know when you're
Right.
forced into something throughout, and then
You don't have that desire to go. Yeah.
there's no mom and dad to wake me up on Sunday morning. Nobody's making me. I can sleep Saturday night. We're
Right.
up because we're in college, right? So we're turning up. Sunday we're nursing a hangover. Nobody got time. Sorry, God, but it's the truth, and you know it. So I'm just being real. So even though I still prayed, I had my Bible, but like going to church and practicing my faith like the right way, no. But then when I started getting depressed, I called my mom. Me and my mom are not close. I'm close to my dad. Even my dad was like, "You called your mom before me?" I'm like, there was something that told me to call my mom. And I started crying and telling her, I think I'm depressed. I don't know what's wrong with me. And my mom was like, Paula, I really don't know how to help you from here. But one thing I know is pray, God will lead you. And I literally started praying. And even until today, when I think of that moment, it's like a powerful moment. As I started praying, my heart felt very heavy and dark. But the more I kept praying, it felt like a light was opening up, like it was. So, and that's why I started believing and praying and finding my own way back to God. And this is why I also tell people, don't force religion or God to anybody. I feel like everybody in their time will find their way back to God. But when you force people, because I grew up in a place where I was forced, that's why I ran away. Don't force. You can tell people, like, I pray for people. Shout out to Alex and Filippo. He sends me voice notes praying for me. Like, I love it. I send voice notes praying to my friends. Like, literally, I don't just tell you I'm praying for you. I will send a voice note where I'm praying. But will I force God on you? No. Will I pray for you? Yes. Will I talk how wonderful God was for me and how much He has helped me? Yes. But I won't force into it because I believe everybody needs to find. And there will always be that one thing that will bring you back.
Right. Well, and you know what?
Just like relationships, when people are in toxic relationship, you can tell them as much, leave, leave, leave. They won't listen, they'll go back. But the day they leave is finally they've had that one thing like, fuck this shit, I'm done. Put their bags, no plan, no nothing, out. So you always gotta let people in their moment, in their time.
Well, and instead of the word force, what I like to say is people are told, not taught. So we're not taught to desire or understand it. And, I do have my podcast, Radiating Faith, where I preach. And one of the things I preach, Paula, is exactly what you said, that you need to have an individual relationship with God. I don't, I've really moved away from the church and a lot of traditional stuff. I was raised Catholic. I'm more non-denominational or Christian now because there's a lot of man-made stuff, human kind of stuff, tradition. And I believe in that individual relationship with God. And most believers have never read the Bible. And the more I read it, the more I learn and understand and desire to know more. I've been studying ancient history and stuff. And so I always tell people, it's hard for me to talk to non-believers who have never read the Bible, who judge it before. They judge it based off the people. And there's a lot of misrepresentation of what religion is.
But it's also because the churches that we belong to, they decide to choose also what Bible verses work and what Bible verses doesn't. Just like the pointing fingers, like I believe churches are supposed to be welcoming. I don't care if they're gay or whatever, black, white. A church is supposed to be a safe space for people to come and find God or find answers or whatever. But when you start pointing fingers or choosing, the Bible say this and this, okay, but you're also doing another sin, which the Bible also say don't do, but you're doing, but you want to justify, you want to push people. So I think that's why people ended up having all these misconceptions and this instead of actually going like that's a whole. I
was gonna say, ladies and gentlemen, I need to get Paula on here for a couple episodes to talk about everything, but
to keep coming back, maybe take over one day.
Well, so ladies and gentlemen, we gotta go. So what we're gonna end it with is, you're your biggest advocate for your own health and love. So make sure that you're fighting for your love and your health, physical and mental. Take the time to heal. And your story is powerful, and you may not think it, but you never know the impact you'll have on someone else. So don't be afraid to share your story, or be ashamed of it. Like Paula could have been ashamed of how depressed she was and never told anyone. And then those 10K people and plus more on every day, you know, wouldn't have heard her story or her guest stories, and some of them could have changed lives. You know, I've seen entire lives changed by a single conversation. That's all it takes is a single conversation or event to really change someone's life. So you never know if you're going to be that little event. So do that. So as Paula said, talk your
Just to add on that, I had this story that I didn't even tell my dad, but I got sexually abused when I was in college in Malaysia. And, you know, I shut it down. I didn't want to talk about it. I avoided it. I pretended like it wasn't there. And I went on one of my friend's podcasts and I told her, I was like, when I'm ready to share, I would like to come to your podcast. And she gave me time. And even when the time came, she asked me, she was like, if you're still not ready, you don't have to. And I was like, no, it's time. Because something was telling me it's time, even though I really didn't want to share it.
Right.
But I follow my instincts and I shared it. And that was the first time I literally shared that story out loud. I was scared about that episode. I don't believe I even listened to that episode. But then I got a message, a DM from a girl, a longest message where she went on about that's all, because she listened to that episode and she was a listener of hers, not mine. But she found me and she expressed out everything I was sharing. That's what she was feeling and going through, and how she felt ashamed and embarrassed. But hearing my story and how my strength and where I am right now has given her hope that she can be better. She can grow out of this and continue. And that shit, there's nothing amazing like hearing that shit.
Right.
Like, okay, I didn't want to share it, but I shared it, and this one person got something out of it. It inspired her.
Yeah.
And it could have been other people also inspired, but they're
Right.
just not ready or didn't want a message or whatever. But she messaged, and from that moment, it was like a wake-up call that you gotta keep on sharing your stories
Right.
and the truth, because you never know how it's impacting somebody out there.
And ladies and gentlemen, to phrase it very neatly, because I discussed this on my episode about narcissism, love bombing, and gaslighting in relationships, Ms. Whiskey Lynn, that guest who she was sharing her story, and she said, you know, it was a messy divorce and everything, but she said she has this motto, and I'm going to share it here. It really sums up everything we've been talking about. Live out loud so others don't die quietly. Recover out loud so others don't die quietly. Die quietly. You know, so ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time, unfortunately. In the description below, in the description below, we're gonna have all of Paula's information so you can check her out. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And Paula, thank you so much for sharing all that.
And I will be happy to come back anytime. I wish we had more. Well, technically, I was supposed to come a little bit earlier. We could have recorded.
I had an issue with the VA, of course.
But also, shit happens. And that's why I say.
And we're going to talk about it.
Shit happens.
And we're going to talk about it. Yeah.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors, my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide, through the waves we ride, jokes and laughter fill the air. On this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side, as one family we will abide. In the heart of the ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.